Yeah, anything over there, right? Thankfully, there's no fuel.
All right, we are live, everyone, and recording.
Like to close the door? Not really.
Want to close?
Something might get tired.
Like to call to order the Town of Fraser board meeting for Wednesday, August 6th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Do I have a roll call, please?
Adam Quicklin,
Debbie Smith.
Julie White.
Louis Gregory.
Katie Souls.
And Brian Cirkvenick.
And
And,
Ruby Fisher.
all right. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes for July 16th, 2025, recommending approval of final plat and major site plan for Centrum Condominiums, motion for continuance. Resolution 2025-0802, contract with TCC Corporation for historic church renovations. Resolution 2025-0803, contracts with Clear Creek Incorporated, Eurofins for PFAS treatment pilot study. Letter of support for Grand Places to submit CPW grant application. And letter of support for inclusion of Shoshone water rights through the state's in-stream flow program.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll move on to open forum. This is for business not on the agenda. If you'd like to speak, please approach the mic and we'll give you 3 minutes of time. Seeing no takers in the audience. If there's anyone online, please raise your hand. Okay. Moving on to Liquor and Beer Licensing Authority. So I would like to entertain a motion to suspend the Board of Trustees meeting and open the Liquor and Beer Licensing Authority.
I'll move to suspend the meeting and open the Liquor and Beer Licensing Authority.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now, I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing regarding Retrocade Tap and Wing House liquor license application.
Somebody else has got to do it.
You can say so moved if you.
I was going to.
There you go.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. This is a public hearing before the Board of Trustees of the Town of Fraser, acting as the local liquor licensing authority for the Town of Fraser, to determine whether the application for a tavern liquor license by Retrocade LLC, DBA Retrocade Tap and Wing House. Applicant, located at 511 Zurich Street, Unit 103, should be granted or denied. This hearing will be conducted pursuant to the laws of the state of Colorado and the ordinances and procedures of the Town of Fraser. The purpose of this hearing is to receive information, data, and testimony by any interested parties in order to enable the Liquor Licensing Authority, the LLA, to make findings and reach conclusions required to be made by state law as to whether or not the application should be approved or denied. One of the principal questions of the Liquor Licensing Authority will be concerned with throughout this hearing relates to the reasonable requirements of the neighborhood for the outlets applied for and the desires of the inhabitants of that neighborhood with respect to that outlet. Those persons who may be heard during this hearing are parties of interest, who are defined by state law as being the applicant, residents of the neighborhood, and owners or managers of businesses located in the neighborhood. The clerk of this hearing will be as follows. At the conclusion of my opening comments, the town clerk will give a summary of the preliminary investigation completed with regards to the application. The applicant will present their case, meaning they will present testimony, exhibits, petitions, or other materials relevant to the application. Interested parties may then testify for or against the proposed application, after which the applicant will have the opportunity for rebuttal. At the conclusion of all testimony, the local liquor licensing authority will close the public hearing and then make its decision to approve or deny the application. All testimony will be given under oath given by the town clerk. Any exhibits presented during the hearing will be submitted to the town clerk to become part of the record. The clerk's official files are hereby admitted into the record of this hearing. DR 8400 Retail Liquor License Application, DR 8404-I Individual History Record, Liquor Finding Facts, Operating Agreement, Lease Agreement, Petition, Certificate of Good Standing, Articles of Organization, Architect's Sketch Drawing, Proof of Publication, and Resolution 2025-0801.
Thank you, Mayor and Trustees. Antoinette McVeigh, the Town Clerk. So again, the matter before the board this evening is a new tavern liquor license located at 511 Xerox Street, Unit 103. The application was filed on June 18th in the clerk's office, and the public hearing is scheduled for today. Notice of the public hearing was posted on the location in the window of the door of the premise on July 25th. Per the statutes. Proof of publication in the general newspaper is in the packet. Just a bit of information, the fingerprinting machine at the police department has been down. I did apply with the CBI, Colorado Bureau of Investigation, to get my own account. I was denied the account, but our chief did let me know that their machine is up and running and he will be able to be fingerprinted on Friday. So it's been a kind of a journey to get to this point. So I do apologize for applicant that has had to wait for that part of the application. I do recommend approval of resolution 2025-0801, approving the application for Retrocade, a new tavern liquor license. So I did in the resolution, which I will go over, I did make a condition of the resolution for approval to be the liquor license is conditionally, should the board decide to approve the license, that it would be conditionally approved pending the background investigation. The applicant's character, record, or reputation must be satisfactory to the local licensing authority per CRS 4403-07. If the investigation is not favorable, the applicant will have the ability to present to the authority, who will make the final determination for approval or denial. If the background check is favorable, then the approved application will stand. So should anything in the background check come back, it will come back to the board to review it again, and you'll have the opportunity to make a decision at that time. Otherwise, it will stand. So as far as once the public hearing is completed, you do have a few options. You can either deny the resolution approving the tavern liquor license. You can approve the liquor license, or you can take 30 days to consider the application if you didn't want to make a decision tonight, or you could call an emergency executive session to order should you feel that necessary also. So those are your 4 options after the public hearing. So now I'm going to go over, so the liquor licensing, the liquor finding facts. This is all of the background information that I am going to present to you on the actual application. So the owner's name is Blaise Lycée. Oh, I got that totally wrong. Blaise Lycée. Lives at 762 Grand County Road 8 in Fraser. The name of the establishment is Retrocade LLC, DBA Retrocade Tap and Wing House, again located at 511 Xerox Street, Unit 103. The applicant is hereby advised that with regard to the application for a tavern liquor license, an investigation has been made, and based on the results, the following have been determined. Again, application was filed on June 18th. Today was the public hearing. I am required to hold the application for no less than 30 days per the statutes, which we have done. The applicant did request a concurrent application with the state liquor licensing authority, which means the state is reviewing an application at the same time as I'm reviewing the application. The location, again, is a tavern license at 511 Zurich Street. It is a new license as opposed to a transfer because there's no existing license currently on that location. A local licensing authority or the state-owned property may be denied issuance of any new tavern or retail license whenever such authority determines that the issuance of the license would result in an undue concentration of the same type of class of license, and as a result would require use of additional law enforcement resources. I don't believe that to be the case, and I'll go over the number of current establishments in the boundary. Tavern liquor license should be issued to persons selling alcoholic beverage by the drink only to consumers for consumption on the premise. A tavern license shall have sandwiches and light snacks available for consumption on the premise during business hours, but need not have meals available for consumption. They do plan on having the Paellas food truck that is currently over at Rocky Mountain Moonshine in the back to fill the wing portion of the desires of the establishment. Again, the poster was placed on July 25th, at least 10 days prior to the hearing. From the evidence submitted, the applicant leases the premise or where the proposed liquor license will be utilized. The sale of liquor is not prohibited by municipal zoning regulations applicable to the premise, so he's good there. Restrictions for the applications for a new license, the building where the applicant proposes to exercise the privilege of selling liquor at retail within 500 feet of any public or parochial school or principal campus of any college or university or seminar was lifted by Chapter 6, Article 4 of the Fraser Municipal Code. 1 year preceding August 6th, there was not a denial for any application because one was not received. So the previous establishment is in this location was a Tim Cup Tavern. They held a tavern license that was voluntarily surrendered on January 13th, 2025. The owner of the Tim Cup Tavern, Brandon Coletti, has a 9.5% ownership interest in the Retrocade. Any owner with less than 10% ownership is not required to be listed on the application. Brandon is an investor in Retrocade and is listed as a financial contributor or investor of the premise. But Blaze is the 90.5% owner of the establishment. To assist you in furnishing evidence on the above matters, you are hereby advised that the town board has determined that the neighborhood to be served is the Fraser Valley Metropolitan Recreation boundaries. And currently, we do have 2 tavern licenses in the town. This would be the 3rd one. We have 1 beer and wine, 6 hotel and restaurants, 3 retail liquor stores, 1 fermented malt beverage, and then we have 3 breweries, 1 distillery, and 1 winery. The town of Winter Park has 44 liquor outlets and Tabernash has 3. So again, I went over the fingerprinting machine was denied or was down. It's now back up. So we'll be able to get him fingerprinted this week. And I did go over that condition that is listed on that resolution. Let's see. So the applicant has demonstrated by preponderance evidence of the liquor license to be desirable and necessary for the reasonable requirements and desires of the adult inhabitants of the neighborhood, which was the petition that was presented in the packet for the meeting. No license shall be issued by any local licensing authority after approval of an application until the building in which the business to be conducted is ready for occupancy and such furniture, fixtures, and equipment are in place and as necessary to comply with the applicable provisions of Article 3, Chapter 4, Title 44. So I will inspect the premise. If the license is approved before he's able to open, I will inspect it to make sure that it meets the sketches drawing, which is also provided in the packet. Again, I do encourage the applicant to read the State of Colorado liquor and beer codes and regulations. So that is all I have at this time to present. Does anybody have any questions for me right now?
One of the documents has Brandon Jung listed, but not.
John Coletti is the same person.
Okay.
Yeah, apologize.
Okay.
Okay, I'll have Blaze come up. I'm gonna have you do a hand over your heart or hand up. I swear to tell the truth. Your name,
Blaze Lucci?
I swear to tell the truth,
I did.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth. Perfect, thank you. This is our applicant.
Thank you, everybody.
You can stand the mic up so you don't have to bend over. There you go.
I do want to clarify one thing. Brandon's a 9.5% on this deal only by the fact that he left all of his equipment and the bar and the cooler and the computers. So that's his contribution. This is going to be 100% my baby. And this is what I do. It's what I've been doing as a kid. Been playing video games and pinball machines my whole life. So this is just an extension of what I do in Dallas as well. So I'll be running the thing 100%.
Okay. So when you say you've been, that's what you do in Dallas?
I
You
do.
Have a somewhat similar establishments in
I
Dallas?
have
or-
one bar and restaurant in Dallas. My little brother runs it, but we're partners. And but I have like 90 to 100 locations with all types of games. The pinball machines like we have over there. We have 8 machines, pinballs over there, and old school retrocade style machines. That'll be free, by the way, for the kids. This is really going to be a family place. And all the machines on the wall that are like nobody wants to pay for them anyway, frankly, but they're going to be free for the kids. So it's going to be a family place. That's our goal. And I want to sell wings because nobody sells wings in town. Period. There's not a wing place in either town, Winter Park or Fraser. So that's my goal.
Wings, okay.
Any questions? I'm sure somebody's got something.
I think in the back of a lot of our minds is, to keeping the riffraff out.
Well, that's why we're going to be open from 11 to 11. It's not going to be a late night spot.
Great. That helps a lot.
Oh, believe me, I don't want to be there till 1 o'clock myself either.
That's good.
How are you going to keep kids out that don't have their parents paying for drinks?
They can't come in.
Okay.
No,
All right.
you got to have your parents. If you're underage, you can't come in.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's not McDonald's.
Just thinking free video games. If I was 11,
Yeah.
that would be a big upset.
I'm sure the parents are going to get bugged a lot.
Yeah.
Kai and Liam.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
want to play that.
Oh, there's a Galaga at Arapahoe Valley Ranch.
There's Gallagher Pac-Man combo.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
Kids want to play that?
Mhm.
Well, it's a blast. It's fun to play.
Good. Well, that'll be a fun addition.
Y'all should come check it out.
Something new.
I got 8 pinball machines. They're like arguably some of the greatest pinballs to play. And they're all brand new. So
Okay.
and those aren't free, by the way.
All right.
You got to pay for those.
When do you anticipate opening? If it all follows as according
If
to
we can
plan?
get approval, and then the state comes in. I got to train people. We have to get Neil from Paez, get him acclimated. I want to get our wing flavors. I want multiple wing flavors. It's not going to be 2 or 3. It's going to be 15 or 20 style of wing flavors. And we've got a wireless thing that Neil has that you can order inside, so the girls can walk outside, get the food. So it's going to be like a table service type place. It won't be you have to go outside of the food truck to get your food. So it's going to be semi restaurant-ish, if you will. Yeah.
Sounds good. No other questions? Okay.
I think so. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. Good to meet you. Thanks for coming.
I'll just present the resolution. I apologize, I forgot to print it. So I'm gonna present it from here. So in the packet, there is a resolution. So the Board of Trustees makes the following findings. The application is complete. All of the payments to the state and local authorities have been paid. There has been evidence submitted that is entitled to possession of the premise. The premise is zoned properly for this type of establishment. And the applicant has demonstrated with the petition that the inhabitants of the neighborhood do want the establishment. And then there's 4 conditions on the resolution. The first one is approval. It has to be approved by the state of Colorado, the Liquor Enforcement Division. The local licensing authority will inspect the premises prior to opening to make sure that it matches the architect's sketch. The alcohol beverage servers must complete certified responsible vendor training within 90 days of issuance of the license. I know Blaze has already taken the one of our free trainings that we offer. And then I did put that one condition that the liquor license is conditionally approved pending the background investigation. The applicant's character record and reputation must be satisfactory to the local licensing authority. If the investigation is not favorable, the applicant will have the ability to present to the authority, who will make a final determination for approval or denial. If the background check is favorable, the approved application will stand, should the board decide to approve this application.
Okay, so do we close the public hearing before we make this decision?
Yes,
We do beforehand.
yes.
Okay. So
First, if there's anybody that would like to make public comment,
is there anyone online?
we have one person online. If you would like to make a
Got a
comment,
hand
public comment, please
blinking.
raise your hand. Nope.
Okay.
I'll make a
So,
motion to close the public hearing.
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Do we also make a motion to close the liquor and beer licensing authority before?
Not until you make a decision on the resolution.
Okay. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve, Town of Fraser Resolution number 2025-0801.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Congrats. So now we can make a motion to close the liquor and beer licensing authority and resume the Board of Trustees meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, good luck to you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so next up we have a public hearing, which we need to have a motion to open the public hearing regarding amending chapter 19 short-term rental regulations for ADU.
So.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Garrett, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Trustees. Garrett Scott, Town Planner. Presentation going here. So the item before you in this public hearing is a proposed ordinance that would amend Chapter 19, our Land Development Code, to add some regulations related to short-term rental licensing on properties that have accessory dwelling units. So if you recall earlier this year, Sarah Catanzarite gave a presentation to you all about various affordable housing strategies that the board and our planning commission could seek to implement. Staff followed up that presentation with a discussion with our planning commission in March that identified these 7 prioritized strategies to incentivize affordable housing development in the town of Fraser. As of today, priorities 1 and 2 have been implemented. Those were the density and height bonus incentives that were approved by the board a month ago on July 2nd. And what we are discussing today is priority number 4, the use regulations for properties with an accessory dwelling unit, or ADU. So just a little bit about the process and timeline. This draft ordinance went before the Planning Commission on June 23rd. The Planning Commission recommended approval of that ordinance by passing Planning Commission Resolution 2025-0601. This is a public hearing, and public notice was provided as required in the Sky High News Middle Park Times on July 16th. An affidavit showing proof of publication is in the meeting packet, as well as on the slide here to the right. So next I wanted to speak about the intention and purpose behind this code amendment. So broadly speaking, accessory dwelling units are viewed as a tool to provide flexible and affordable housing options. They have the potential to increase housing affordability both for homeowners and tenants. They can create a wider range of housing options because ADUs are generally smaller in size. And they can also enable things like aging in place and multi-generational households without having, those households to seek housing on separate properties. So Fraser has also signaled clear support for accessory dwelling units by recently, earlier this year, establishing them as a use by right in all zone districts so that an accessory dwelling unit is simply an administrative approval. Per town code, an ADU cannot be separated from ownership from the principal dwelling unit. So this arrangement means that renting out the ADU to maybe someone who's not related to you is quite common. And that could be a long-term, more than 1 month at a time lease, or it could be a short-term rental that is currently allowed in our code. So really what this code amendment seeks to do is find a balance between allowing that flexibility for ADUs to be used for both long and short-term rentals, while providing some lighter restrictions so that ADUs don't serve as a means to simply proliferate short-term rentals here in Fraser. So this slide shows the actual text that is proposed to be added to our code with this amendment to this section that specifies our ADU regulations. And the key sentence here is this one that's now underlined, that at no time may both an ADU and the principal dwelling unit be simultaneously licensed as short-term rentals. So either one or the other may be a short-term rental, but not both. If for some reason that were ever to occur, then both short-term rental licenses could be revoked. Speaking in terms of implementation and impact, currently, if this code amendment were adopted, there are no properties that would be immediately affected. So there are no properties that currently exist in Fraser where both the primary principal dwelling unit and the accessory dwelling unit are both short-term rentals. We do not have that right now, but staff simply wants to avoid that being possible in the future. As far as implementing this, planning staff has prepared and will continue to maintain an inventory of accessory dwelling units in Fraser and share this with the clerk's office for their use in processing new STR license applications. In the staff report, I mentioned that we currently have only 12 accessory dwelling units in Fraser. Only one of them is currently licensed as a short-term rental, and its principal dwelling unit is not. So again, this is more trying to be proactive and just try to prevent a proliferation of short-term rentals and ADUs in the future. One other thing that I wanted to mention is that in looking at where we do have short-term rentals in the town of Fraser, they're generally most prevalent in the Rendezvous and Grand Park areas where either by the planning approvals for those developments or HOA regulations, accessory dwelling units are prohibited. And areas of town where ADUs are most logical and most likely to be built in the future, kind of in our existing single family residential areas, like here in Old Town Fraser. These are areas that have currently the lowest number of short-term rentals. So again, likely not expecting many conflicts with this in the future, but it is just a lighter regulation that staff is looking to implement. So staff recommends that the Board of Trustees approve Ordinance 525. The title of the ordinance is there on the screen. If approved by the board, then this ordinance would officially take effect in about a month in September. So that concludes my presentations. If there's any input from the public, we can take it, and any questions, I stand ready to answer them.
So Garrett, you mentioned Grand Park and ADUs. There are ADUs in Grand Park. Are you saying they're not licensed for short-term rentals or not being utilized
So I should
or
clarify,
prohibited?
what was that at the end there? Sorry.
I'm sorry?
I should clarify that statement because we had this discussion with the planning commission. There are some areas of Rendezvous and Grand Park where ADUs are allowed. I guess I should say that a majority of Rendezvous and Grand Park or large portions of them, ADUs are not allowed, either by the, planning approval, the subdivision plat and FPDP that approved those developments, or by the community HOA regulations. Uh, Staff has seen some of those HOA regulations that specifically prohibit accessory dwelling units.
Okay. I mean, I know phase one of Cozen's Meadow has a number of ADUs, right?
Yes, yes, and that was something that we also discussed in the planning commission. Some of the detached garages have that second level that have,
Right.
a kitchen, and those are considered ADUs, yes.
Okay. And other question about, so you could have a long-term rental and a short-term rental on the same property,
You
right?
could, yes,
That's allowed.
yes,
You just can't have short-term rentals in both of the buildings.
correct. So whichever unit is not the short-term rental, that could, be lived in year-round by the property owner, it could be rented out long-term to someone else. It could sit vacant. This doesn't impact that use of the second unit other than it cannot be a short-term rental.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
What defines ADU? Is that the certificate of occupancy that's given? Because I know, I mean, I'm thinking of Grand Park, I'm thinking of myself. I don't have a CO for an ADU.
Sure.
I
So I think there are a number of properties that maybe have not quite met the definition in our code of what an ADU is, and therefore are not classified as such. So a couple of the things uh, maybe that generally result in not being considered an ADU is if it's a, structure that, say, doesn't have a full kitchen, or if it doesn't have its own bathroom, but it's still habitable to some degree. Something, like a guest house that has a bedroom but doesn't have a bathroom would not be considered an ADU because it's not that's not a dwelling unit that could actually be lived in independently from, say, the main primary dwelling unit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I need to rephrase. I'm curious. So it's not dependent on the building permit and the out, what was approved, and that kind of thing. I mean, I'm thinking, there's a lot of different products out there. I went for an ADU and wasn't given an ADU. And so now I'm wondering if I'm being classified as an ADU.
I would maybe just answer that by saying the passage of this ordinance would not by itself reclassify any properties that are existing as an ADU or not. I do think that is an exercise that town staff needs to do. It is possible that there are some properties that can and should be classified as ADUs that town staff is not aware of. But that process could require additional research. And it would certainly be something that we look at in tandem with short-term rental license applications. Does that answer your question?
Not really. I mean, my question's an issue of semantics. I don't,
Sure.
according to the law, I don't have an ADU. According to the intent of this, I do.
Interesting.
Does an ADU have to have a separate CO for the main
Um,
property?
It's because
That is our policy now. In the past, I'm not totally sure, but the procedure now for building and getting an ADU approved, it is addressed separately from the main property. If you sought to build an ADU at the same time as a new, say, single-family home, the ADU and the single-family home would receive separate COs
Okay.
and separate street addresses. But again, it's hard to say with any certainty what was done historically.
So the properties, for instance, like in Grant Park, are they sort of grandfathered in? They didn't get a separate CO, obviously, right?
Right. I would say those properties predate the town's accessory dwelling unit regulations.
So they're grandfathered.
Do you have a clear definition of an ADU somewhere?
We do. So the section that I referenced in the presentation, it's 19-2-470 of our code. It specifies the criteria by which an ADU must meet, essentially. So
Different than a duplex, so can you rent out a duplex? Both?
I'm sorry, can you,
Oh, sorry. I'm just wondering with can you rent out a duplex or a STR each side?
yes. So a duplex, 2 attached dwelling units,
Mhm.
presumably generally both under separate ownership, although that's not always the case. That could have 2 short-term rental licenses, 1 for each unit. So this would not impact duplexes or other, multifamily, say triplex, fourplex on a single common lot. And I would say the distinction between a duplex and a property with an accessory dwelling unit is that the units in the duplex can have separate ownership.
Mhm.
With an ADU, it cannot be separated in ownership.
Right.
So that is,
Okay.
yes.
That makes sense.
And it's an accessory use.
It's like,
of
what's the
primary.
difference really?
How
But
does
I got-
this mix with the other strategies? I see density bonuses and stuff. Now I'm thinking a duplex might get an ADU if they meet certain criteria, and now we're cross multiplying these incentives. How do you? Is that part of our vision, or is that something we need to be aware of, or is that then 2 local units and 2 short? I don't know. How does that break down? How do those add up? Or
Right. I think so. Kind of as I mentioned, this ordinance is probably the lightest type of regulation that we could probably seek to implement with regulating short-term rentals and accessory dwelling units. I think how it relates to affordable housing is that, again, ADUs are generally viewed as cheaper to build, smaller units have lower rents, and therefore that translates to housing that could be utilized by those in our local workforce. So I guess, this was something else that was discussed with the Planning Commission, that we could seek to implement stronger regulations that, for example, short-term rentals are completely prohibited in accessory dwelling units. Or any accessory dwelling unit that is constructed in the town moving forward has to have a deed restriction on it that restricts its occupancy to a local resident or a local worker. I think those types of maybe stronger regulations are certainly not something that we are just simply saying we're not going to pursue. But I think the strategy with this is, let's start with this lighter regulation, continue to monitor both short-term rental licensing and ADU construction in Fraser, and see if we need to make tweaks in the future.
I don't really think it's my place to say what someone can do with their ADU and can't.
Katie, I think that's been the approach. Winter Park has a little more stricter restrictions on their ADUs. I believe they require them to be deed restricted for any new ones. ADUs are just a great way to be able to add density to some areas and provide options for homeowners to have that accessory use. It can work to the benefit of the property owner, and we've left it at that. With this, it really helps. And I think part of the adoption of ADUs, which I believe came in 2018, was the idea of being able to provide for more options for long-term rentals and those tenants to be able to kind of have a place to live. But it also provides great opportunities for the homeowner if they want to rent out the larger house, or if kids move out, they would need to use a smaller space. You have that flexibility.
I just don't know why they can't rent them both out. If they want to do that, then they should be able to do that.
You can rent them, you can long-term rent them both out.
Well,
Mm.
short term.
But this is restricting or at least you can only short-term rent one of the, since they're essentially one property and you can't have two different owners.
Mhm.
And this is seen in other communities too, where they have this regulation, so that you're not just short-term renting both properties, but at least providing at least a smaller unit for long-term rental if that's what you want to do.
Right.
So, and I get that because in the neighborhoods, you don't want what was residential, all of a sudden, two short-term rentals next door.
But a duplex can do it.
But yeah, but that's,
That's not an ADU.
Different owners.
yeah, that's not an ADU.
Not a lot. I mean, a lot of times they're the same owner.
Parking's there.
I
There's
guess
really not too much of a difference between ADU and duplex, in my opinion, to make rules for one and not the other.
I would maybe just also clarify with the duplex example. A duplex unit could also have an accessory dwelling unit associated with that. So for
That was my
example,
question on how those stack up.
yeah, so
And-
for example, say you have say you have a
So
property
4
with
units.
it's technically 2 lots. The lot line is down the party wall between those 2 duplex units. One of those duplex owners could build, say, a detached garage that has an ADU on top of that. Now this regulation applies to that duplex unit with the ADU on their property, and the other duplex unit is unaffected because it's on a different lot. It could be under different ownership.
I was under the impression that duplexes were on the same lot. They have like a HOA, don't they? It's always separate, like
They're
with
separated.
separate
It-
yards. Oh, I don't know.
It depends. Sometimes they can be on the same lot, sometimes not.
Typically
Single
they'll-
family attached duplex is a different product. The duplex has a single service line. It has on water and sewer, where single family attached has individual service lines.
No, duplex has their own, each has their own water tap.
Shouldn't.
Our code, my
Sure.
understanding is that it allows for both options. If the owners, if there are 2 separate owners in the duplex, for example, they could arrange to have just one water service line and have a joint billing and manage that either, through an agreement through themselves or through a HOA that just covers the 2 units. I think what is generally preferred by the town in new construction is that each unit has its own service line and is therefore billed separately. But yes, I mean, generally you have an HOA for any common elements, maintenance of exteriors and things like that. So.
We need a motion to approve this, or
Oh, yeah,
We do.
Yes.
do we have to close the public hearing?
yes. Oh,
Yeah.
Clark's got his hand up.
Okay.
Hello,
Mr. Lipscomb.
Lipscomb.
Hey everyone, how are you guys?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for seeing my hand. I'm good. So just enjoying the non-smoky evening, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't be down there with you guys. Just a couple of things on this. First of all, how many ADUs have you guys had request a permit in the last 5 years?
For new construction,
Yeah,
at least I can speak for the last 2 years. We have received, I want to say 2, maybe 3
okay.
new ADUs.
Why are we looking to regulate something that is such a small quantity that one can be accretive and beneficial to our housing inventory and housing stock? And by putting regulations on it, and frankly, I don't care what Winter Park does. Last I heard, we were Fraser, Michael, with all due respect, but it makes no sense to me to be trying to regulate ADUs when we've had 2 in the last 2 years that maybe they're being rented to somebody long-term, or maybe they're being rented short-term. I don't really care. Let the free market work and don't discourage people from doing them, because you put regulations on them. It's not like you have a glut of these things coming in. Put regulations on them. I guarantee you it will go to 0. You'll have no ADUs. and you're going to discourage development of badly needed housing stock.
Hmm.
So I completely oppose doing restrictions of this nature at the stage that our town is at. Okay, we are not a maturely developed town. We need housing of any sort. I'll take any type of housing we can get from an inventory perspective, and regulating and restricting will discourage it.
Garrett, how did this conversation start? Can you kind of talk a little bit of background where this came from?
Yeah, sure. Again, going back to earlier this year, when we initially presented to the board in February, various strategies that could just help promote and incentivize affordable housing. Let's pause for the train.
Train's coming. Thank you, Adam.
Um, one of the strategies to kind of promote or incentivize affordable housing is incentivizing ADUs, and especially incentivizing them to be used for actual long-term occupancy. And really looking to what neighboring communities do. I recognize we're Fraser, we are different, but obviously we look to some of our peer communities to understand what regulations they have implemented to help inform our decisions. And I agree with the sentiment that Fraser is largely less developed than other mountain resort communities here in the state, which is why this ordinance as proposed is truly what staff believes to be quite a light regulation that helps maximize and preserve the flexibility for the property owner to still have a short-term rental on one of the units on their property, just not short-term rentals for both. So again, it's a fairly light regulation, and the intention is still to provide a great degree of flexibility, but help see that as ADUs do get constructed, which we hope to see more of over time, that those ADUs just don't result in a mass proliferation of short-term rentals.
And now it's a use by right for everyone. And it
is.
wasn't a year ago, right?
Correct.
So I think that that's a big part of the difference why we want to be preemptive on this, because people know that, oh, I can do that, and it's within my rights. So I think that in itself will encourage some people to look into it.
Yeah, I don't think it's very particularly onerous, and I'm not sure we want, investment companies coming in here and turning all these properties into short-term rentals.
Right.
They can get twofers if they could do that, right?
What would the cost savings be last year before it was a use by right compared to this year for someone applying?
Yeah, so the use by right, which we changed for the low density single family district. Previous to that change, if someone in that zone wanted to build an ADU, they would have to go through the conditional use permit process. I don't know the fee for that application off the top of my head. But I think beyond just the fee and any costs, financial costs associated with that review, the biggest barrier is time. Because a conditional use permit requires approval by the Board of Trustees at a public hearing. So with an administrative approval, which can be done in approximately a month, that conditional use permit could easily double that time frame. So that's probably the biggest barrier that was removed.
Okay.
So I'm curious, it seems like if you have a single unit and there's a deed restriction, we purchase it. Now, if there's an ADU being added, we're just taking some property rights. If it's a single unit, we're compensating somebody for it. If somebody wants to add housing now, we're saying, okay, but you have to make a donation to us. There's a restriction on your rights. On one hand, we're paying people for it. On the other hand, we're taking it from them in exchange for something that's a use by right now.
So the deed restriction program does require anyone who is granted that deed restriction from a cash provision there, that unit that they're asking for that deed restriction becomes deed restricted, and it's, I believe short-term rentals are already prohibited for use for those buildings.
Yeah, but this is taking away, limiting a right of a property owner. They have a right to build it.
Mhm.
And now you're saying, but you can't rent it the way you want to if you build it. So this is a takings. I
agree.
mean, maybe these things should have been presented in concert, but we've already established that it's a use by right.
Well,
Yeah.
they can rent it either long-term or short-term. They just can't
Can't rent.
rent their primary residency
That,
resident.
I think maybe a better way to think about it in terms of the point you're raising, Adam, is
a
that,
deed restriction, one unit
Well-
cannot be, or both units cannot be rented in a certain manner. So it's essentially, you're placing a restriction on that property for perpetuity, and that's a takings. I mean, I see it as exactly the same as the deed restriction program, but you're not paying for it.
I would say the difference between this and our deed restriction program is that this can be amended and changed later. Zoning regulations, short-term rental licensing regulations can change over time. And a deed restriction, as you said, once it's agreed upon, executed, and recorded, it runs with the land in perpetuity, essentially. This, I wouldn't consider this a takings per se. I would maybe think about this more as a change to our short-term rental licensing regulations, which certainly many communities seek to do. I would say that our short-term rental licensing regulations are really quite light and quite permissive, which again, the board is, elected to do so. And this isn't fundamentally changing that to be so onerous and restrictive, staff believes. So it is changing to a degree the allowed uses in an accessory dwelling unit. But again, it's aligning that allowed use to be better in line with what the town would like to see with accessory dwelling units, which is, you know, building them and utilizing them as housing for long-term folks who live here.
If I could just add to that, ADUs have been promoted across Colorado as a form of kind of gentle density, right? And increasing housing stock, as affordable housing stock. One of the criticisms sometimes, though, is if you start to allow these things, you have greater density. Really, you're just increasing the value of the property. A developer can come in and build whatever they want. They're not build whatever they want, but they could build that ADU and then short-term rent it. You're not actually increasing your affordable housing stock. So by having some level of regulation on that ADU, I would agree with Garrett that it is a form of short-term rental regulation, of which Fraser really is much more generous in the lack of regulations compared to a lot of communities. There are a number of mountain towns that ADUs across the board, I believe it's in Breckenridge, cannot be short-term rented. In Denver, you can rent an ADU as a short-term rental if it is your primary residence. So again, Fraser can definitely decide what's the best fit for Fraser, but it is a common practice to have some sort of level of regulation to try to really promote affordable housing for the community versus just saying, okay, ADUs are a use by right. Now we have more short-term rentals, but we're not actually gaining that affordable housing that we are trying to kind of promote and encourage. So just wanted to throw that in.
And I think that you are increasing the density, which impacts the neighborhood. So I think that having some restriction is a good thing, because if my next door neighbor takes advantage of this and then all of a sudden it's fraternity weekend and we've got 2 fraternities in both the houses, and it's not what was originally intended for the neighborhood. And it's got a lot of short-term rentals that cause a lot of problems. And so multiplying it times 2 just creates twice as many problems. So I like the direction of it.
You feel better just putting a cap on STRs and telling each individual what they can do with their own property. If we're gonna do it, let's just cap it. instead of telling someone what they can and cannot do, you know?
Hmm.
Forever.
But that's just
Well, like
we're
you say,
telling
though, it's
people what
not
they can
necessarily
and cannot
forever,
do.
because these regulations can be
I know.
changed.
Well, if you have one, but I don't, because I'm below the cap, I can't do it. I don't know. It's a tough one.
Close the public hearing.
Should probably have Mr. Lipscomb speak again, the only member of the public here.
Just a couple of follow-up thoughts, guys. First of all, I'd like to understand better what the cost of enforcement of such a provision of this nature would be to the town and a burden on the staff. Two, we've literally, I think he said there were 2 of these in the last 2 years. Doesn't our staff have some better things to spend their time on than focusing on 2 ADUs? And lastly, if 100 of these were built tomorrow, 100, okay, think about it. Wouldn't that be great for the town with no restrictions? Because I guarantee you, with 100 of them built, you would have some of them getting long-term and maybe some short-term. Why do we care? Let the market determine. We need housing. So the best thing that could happen is staff focus on encouraging development of housing, expediting development plans, building more housing inventory. You, the town, are building a big affordable housing project. And I think it's going to be deed restricted. That housing project, and based on, Fireside Apartments having 8 units available today and where the market is and the inventory, et cetera, I think we're going to have plenty of affordable housing between what Fraser's doing and Winter Park's doing, et cetera. And all this is going to do, once again, is discourage any private individual from moving forward and going to do this. And I think it is a big impingement on an individual's right. I mean, Lewis, if you wanted to build an ADU, which you're allowed to in Cousins Meadow, I expect you wouldn't want a restriction on it. And I'm guessing it wouldn't make the economics work very well for you. So, I mean, I think you guys are barking up the wrong tree.
Oh.
And I'd like to know better what's driving this, given the fact that there's been 2 done. And, really, truly, I think the entire staff there has a lot better things they could be spending their time on. This will not create more affordable housing. I can promise you that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to address the cost, I think we have a program that is following STRs so that we get the fees that we're supposed to have anyway. So that would just kind of fall into that. But yeah, you raise good points.
How many actual ADUs do we have?
So based on an inventory that town staff did, looking at quarterly service fees for water and sewer, we believe that we have 12 ADUs. It is possible, as I mentioned previously, that some ADUs exist kind of prior to the adoption of our regulations associated with them, that are, again, kind of just existing maybe in a bit of a gray area. So it's possible that there's more than 12, but there's 12 that we know of for sure.
Thank you.
I would just argue that in terms of timing, whether the board wants to adopt this or not, if you were to adopt it, to me, it makes more sense to adopt it before people build ADUs versus once they're built. That way they go into it knowing what the regulation is. I've always felt for people who, buy a property, they build a property thinking they're going to short-term rent it, and then the regulations change on them. So I think there's a good argument to do it before that development comes and those ADUs are created, if it's something that the town thinks makes sense.
But this could be reversed in 4 years' time or change. So that really doesn't, I mean, we
It's
have,
fair.
we have the will to change this every 6 months moving forward. So I don't know that. I mean, I like the idea of, like I said, if these things were simultaneous, it would have made more sense to me, but I don't know that that matters once we realize that one is on title and one is just it's the whim of a board.
So if someone did own a piece of property and let's say they had some kind of hardship and the primary residence had to be vacated or something, and they could come to the town and ask for a variance on that, couldn't they? Or not?
I'd say the way this is written, it would not allow, again, both the primary unit and the accessory dwelling unit to be licensed as short-term rentals. But I think issuance of short-term rental license ultimately are approved by the town manager. I can reference our code to see what types of exceptions exist. But again, I would just say, even if the primary home is vacant or rented long-term to someone who is not the property owner, those are still allowed.
Mhm.
So it simply, all that is restricting is short-term renting of both units.
Right. I don't, again, I don't see it being that onerous. And my concern is, like on my street, there are 3 houses that were bought by investors. And one of the properties, and Clark, you know this, is in terrible shape. And they could basically take these properties and rent both the ADU and the main house out as short-term rentals. And it really affects the neighborhood. I mean, it really, parties and all sorts of crazy things can go on, and it's not fair to the full-time residents that live there.
I bought into a residential neighborhood.
So I
agree with
I don't
that.
see this as being a big issue. We discussed it for how long, and
Okay.
I either take a vote on it, we table it. I mean,
Okay, make a motion.
I'm,
We
We need-
can't.
So
Yes, sir.
did we close the public
do
hearing?
you guys consider my ADU? Is it on the list?
It
of
is not,
ADUs?
uh, as far as my recollection of the addresses that we did identify. I don't believe.
Yeah. And that gets down to my semantics question of legal versus what,
Sure.
is it versus what we see? Or
Any more discussion before we close the public hearing?
I would close the public hearing.
No second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance 525, amending chapter 19 to regulate short-term rental licenses on properties with ADUs.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Okay,
Roll call.
we should probably do a roll call for this one. So we'll start with Katie Souls.
Yes.
Well, I made the motion, yes.
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 I think I have to go to you next.
No. Oh, no.
no.
Yes.
And yes.
Okay. Motion carries.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Sorry, Garrett.
Thank you. That was
Okay,
good discussion, though. That was really
Was.
good discussion. It brought up a lot of different
Really good.
elements and ideas. And
really good points on both sides,
Mhm.
absolutely.
so we'll see how it all washes out.
Okay, moving on to discussion and possible action regarding resolution 2025-0804, contract with HRS Authentic Drilling and Eurofins.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees, Paul Johnson, Public Works Director. Before you is the resolution to allow us to contract with HRS Authentic Drilling and Eurofins Environmental Testing to conduct a study of the aquifer in the property owned by the Jones Living Trust, which is the properties to the north of town currently and kind of near the pole yard, but not the pole yard. So in front of you, you'll see the fiscal cost, the total cost of 232,370 on a budgeted amount of 650 for drilling wells this year. So background, in order for us to continue the growth of our community, additional water sources will need to be utilized. A good example would be Byers Peak Properties. We have a large development planned with water that's been guaranteed to them, and we need to drill wells to maximize the use of our existing water right. So we've reached out to the Jones Family Trust and have gotten permission to drill some test wells along the Fraser River and then out along St. Louis Creek in property that they own. So the plan would be to drill 4 test wells located across the Jones Trust property, 1 test hole near well 789 to see if we can deepen those Currently, well 9 is really shallow, but when it is active, it is our most productive well. But it does have the most PFAS, so hence the consent agenda item. And then so look to either re-drill those, get them deeper to get better production, and then drill that monitoring well in St. Louis Landing there outside of the daycare facility that we've set aside to make sure we have that site. And so we want to work with all of them. We had contracted with Stantec earlier in the year to do a geological survey of the best drilling locations, and using that report that we had conducted and paid for, we used that to cite these locations with the help of HRS. So we've met outside, we've walked it with representatives of the Jones family and have set stakes. So the drilling company has the ability to get to us hopefully this season. So it would be either end of this month or early of September. So we have also reached out to Grand Park, to their team that's working on West Mountain to try and have some cost savings to maybe allow this driller to be here at the same time, so we can maybe see some benefit there. But that's what we're looking at here, just to kind of set us up as we move forward to know where we can drill with our water right that we currently have, which is the Gaskell ditch right that we've moved around several times to get our wells. But we need more water to use up the rest of that water right that we're not currently utilizing because the wells can't produce that much.
So this is specific to the existing water rights, not,
This is
not to a
specific-
future supply
This is,
exploration.
no, this is not
Okay.
future supply. This is existing. This would be to maximize the existing. I don't remember how much we have left, but we have at least 3 wells worth of water left that we can pull out of the ground. So if we can find some good locations, then, negotiate with the Jones family on getting those locations set aside to put a well and a pump house in and tie it back in. It'll set us up well for future development that we're already expecting within town limits and are out of service. And then if we move forward, we would also potentially have locations for any water rights that were required through annexation.
Paul, you mentioned PFAS.
That's
What is,
later.
what is the source of that, and what,
That's
are they
late.
gonna test as part of this program? They're gonna test
So
for that?
not for this. What we had on the consent agenda is to set up a pilot program at the this is the Blue Zone treatment facility to test pulling PFAS out through a third-party filter system. And as it said in that staff briefing, through the DuPont 3M settlement, we've already received the first disbursement of that settlement that covers half of the cost of that test. And then we anticipate this month or next month a second check that'll be double the size of the last check, which would cover all of this cost. And then the third and final check would hopefully cover design costs for anything that needs to be done at the treatment facilities to remove PFAS.
Wow.
So we're trying to set ourselves up for any regulations I think the regulations were planned to implement in 28, but those may be getting pushed back just because nobody has a good solution yet to provide how you get rid of it. So,
I mean, so you can filter it out.
yes,
Ultimately.
activated charcoal is one of the ways. But there's some other ways that we can pull it out, but then you have to haul it off. The plant isn't able to pull it out. It's just a pass-through chemical that it comes through the water, goes right through, and goes right back out into the river. So it's not one of those chemicals that they have a good solution for yet.
Okay, I'm just concerned that it might limit our ability to use certain wells if they're,
So the idea is to is with the pilot program from the consent agenda. If that works, we then work to installing that at both treatment facilities so that it doesn't matter what the wells are pulling out. We're pulling any PFAS out before it's distributed into the system.
okay.
It's a way to be able to maximize the wells we do have. And if we do have PFAS, we only have one well that's even close to the limits. And so we don't use it unless it's necessary. But this would allow us to turn it back on.
Where is it coming from, and why is that well particularly high versus the other ones?
That well is very, very shallow. So it would have a lot of runoff from ski resorts, any sort of fire mitigation that happens. There's a lot of PFAS in
Wax.
ski
And
wax.
toes.
And
And fireproofing.
skiing.
Right. They would, yeah, they would be in the county for now.
So is this, are we trying to do this because of the pole yard wanting to annex in? Is that the main reason or?
No,
is
this
it
is
just because?
This is because we need to provide water to Byers Peak Properties, that we guaranteed them a number of SFEs that I cannot provide with the existing wells we have.
So they have water rights. Do we get access to their water rights?
Per our agreement, no.
Maybe we need a new agreement.
I have to work within the existing agreements I have, so I have to provide for that development with our north system, and I need more water out of the ground to do so. So trying to set ourselves up so that we're not putting a moratorium on development because we don't have water.
But we're focusing on this town of Fraser first, right? And
This would be the north system, so this would be everything for the north system. Byers Peak Properties would be supplied by the north system. So this is only for the north system. The south system has enough water right within their 3 well fields to, we would need more wells as Grand Park develops up West Mountain. Some more wells would need to be brought on, but there's not a water. Because they have well fields, it's easier. We have points of diversion, which makes it very difficult on the north system. When we switched from surface water to wells, we went to water court and specifically said we're going to put a well in this location. So I can only move those wells within, I think, 100 feet of where they are now. So we need to, and I'm restricted going to the south along the Fraser River because now I'm entering into Winter Park Ranch's water rights. So they pull out along Cousins open space. That's where their wells are. We start north of Safeway. That's where all of our wells are, and I have no room left within town limits to drill, other than the one in St. Louis Landing.
So once you find those, like with the Jones Family Trust, if we find locations, it's still privately owned.
We would negotiate with them to acquire the amount of land I need to put a well in a well house.
Okay. Do we have muscle to do that? To encourage their cooperation?
They've been cooperative up to this point.
Wonderful.
Water follows money.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had any pushback against it. It was just coordinating with their broker
Okay.
to meet on site and flag things. So things have gone,
Okay.
I would say they've gone very well as we've approached them with this. And
Okay, good.
again, like I said, if annexation becomes a thing that the town pursues to the north, we had approved a water rights study by HRS 2 meetings ago that would kind of solidify what water rights are available to the north. But this would also allow us to utilize those water rights if we have a good well location within the property that has additional water rights.
Okay, good.
But there is the potential now. One of the big differences is we're stuck in the kind of the upper portion of the aquifer, whereas our south system in Grand Park, the Maryvale water right is a deeper water right, so they get to go. Some of those wells are 200 feet deep. We can't go that deep. We're stuck in the alluvium. Those go down to the troublesome formation. So there's a little bit difference in the 2 water rights because we were surface water.
Gotcha.
But this is the drilling that we tried to do last. I don't know if you remember, we did drilling last year, and they didn't bring the right drill rig, and they didn't get through the clay layer, and they stopped. This is to finish what we started last year.
Interesting.
Did we pay them for that?
Unfortunately, we paid, yes.
Is there any discount for them not doing the job when they were supposed to?
Same company?
Yes. So this was last year was coordinated through a third party, and there was a miscommunication between who was telling who what. So that's why we had Stantec do the report first and tell them exactly what they had to bring, instead of a driller knowing what they should bring versus a hydrologist thinking they know what they're saying. So
Okay.
and we had discussions between, so our Merrick and Lucas were in discussions with everybody on what was required.
Okay. Any more questions or comments from the board? I'll open it up to public comment. Let's keep them to 3 minutes. Looks like Mr. Lipscomb has his hand up again.
Just
Thanks, everyone. Paul, I'd love to get some time with you to talk further about this in general. Is this including, is this contract for a well driller? Because I understood we were gonna work together. We're working on proposals from two different other well drillers that aren't in this presentation.
Yeah, everything was forwarded to Jack prior to us getting to this point, and we haven't heard anything.
Okay, well, yeah, Jack didn't get it to me, so, yeah, so this is for your well driller, whoever you're hiring.
Yeah, this is to
Okay.
the, yeah.
That's too bad.
The-
Yeah,
the,
we're gonna end up using probably one of the local well drillers that have drilled for us before.
Yeah,
That we
and
think is probably more cost effective.
the mobilization is on this isn't very high.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how much, I mean, there would have been some cost savings between us.
It's
but-
probably a modest cost savings. It's just disappointing to hear that it didn't get to me, but, I've been gone a little bit, so maybe Jack tried. Regarding the Gaskell water right, the Gaskell ditch, I'm fairly familiar with that. That, if you guys don't know, is on part of the old Byers Peak Ranch and is part of the original town's water surface system. And Jeff Durbin and I spoke about many times re-engaging the surface treatment up there. And given your PFAS treatment and all this other stuff that you're having to do anyway on wells, it almost begs the question of should you just do a surface treatment plant and not deal with wells? And then secondarily, you do know there's a well that's drilled up there near your old sediment basin. That is it's a town well as part of the town facilities that they were drilling a test well long ago when they were switching to wells.
I am not aware of a well up there.
Well, I'd be glad to take you up there and show it to you, and maybe that's worth investigating for the Gaskell, right? Just given that it's right there and it kind of relates to the town's old water system operation. Might be a good idea to look at bringing water down from St. Louis Creek, which is gonna be, theoretically very clean water. There's not much up above St. Louis Creek, down into town via pipeline, and you've got the easement that's already up there. So I would just say that's maybe worth considering and evaluating, and looking at. And then secondly, I know that you mentioned Byers Peak, properties and our, water service agreement, and I appreciate that. But when we did that agreement with the town had capacity studies in place for its current system in the current blue zone. And in that was ample water in the current existing system, to serve that project without any additional work. So I'm just curious where that's coming from. I agree with planning for the future and having wells
Yeah, I'm
in
not
place for the
sure.
future.
Yeah, when I've looked at it, Clark, I'm not sure what was going on there, but when we look at what we can get out of the wells, there's not enough to satisfy that agreement. So I need to go
Okay.
find water.
So it's purely well production, not the
It's,
tank
it's
size
well
that you're.
production. It's not water right. There's enough water right. It's the well production that's not enough to satisfy. So I need to go find enough to pull more water out of the right we have diverted, to maximize that. What Clark is speaking about on St. Louis, we still have a 1 CFS surface water right on St. Louis Creek that could be utilized, like he was saying, with a surface water treatment plant. It's just finding a way to, does it make sense to go back to water court, re-divert all of those back to Gaskell, build a $25 million surface water treatment plant. So just trying to find a way to get to the water that we've already diverted through water court to get that out of the ground. We've already got the right to do it, and I just need to find a way to get it out of the ground. So that's what I'm looking for here.
Gotcha.
This is not a public hearing, right?
It's not, but
Okay.
we
I
can,
just was-
yeah,
wanted to clarify.
we can still take public comment.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-0804.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Okay. Moving on to Clayton Court 90% streetscape plans, presentation and discussion. Also Paul.
Thank you, Mayor, Board of Trustees. Again, Paul Johnson, Public Works Director. Just want to give an update on the Clayton Court 90% streetscape plans. So we have spent a lot of time over the last, through the winter, we installed a water line that is difficult. And then moving through streetscape and trying to collaborate as best we could with development, both the Center for the Creative Arts, moving the raw water line from the far north end of the Clayton Court to the property line between the Strom properties and the Art Center so that they can maximize their buildable area. So we've been working on that. So new water mains were completed in February. The right-of-way take agreements are in final negotiation. So we're working with the various property owners to acquire the needed right-of-way to get it from 50 to 60 to accommodate the sidewalks, parallel parking. Utility replacements. This has probably been the most difficult thing we've been working on since spring through summer. The conceptual plans are complete for replacements with upsized main lines for Excel, Mountain Parks Electric, and Comcast. We have just recently been able to communicate with Lumen and started the process with them for their one line they have running through there. The release of the full design pending utility engineering payments and agreements. The streetscape design, the specifications are near completion, and we have ongoing engagement and collaboration with stakeholders. So we're in communication with Greg and Kevin with Out West. We're in communication with Downtown Fraser LLC and their potential development. We've also had conversations with the J&L building owners. The son has met both Michael and I on site. We've talked through it. So they're all looking at what they can do there. Go to the next page. So if you look at this map here, this is the existing utilities as we have completed the water line. So the orange line in the top left is the new raw water line that we relocated that supplies water from the well house there on Clayton Court to the surface, to the Blue Zone treatment plant. So we relocated that from the far left of the screen to that location. The highlighted yellow is the new water lines that we installed. So everything from Doc Susie to Clayton Avenue is all brand new lines. And then the portion from Clayton Avenue out to Highway 40 was a replacement of a failing line that had had emergency repairs, I believe, 3 winters in a row. So it was a failing line that was undersized. So we got that replaced. So we have new 8-inch lines all through the Clayton Court downtown development, and then a new 6-inch raw water main. This picture here shows the needed right-of-way acquisition. So red is the needed right-of-way acquisition from each parcel. Now, if you notice on the southwestern portion of Clayton Court, there's no right-of-way acquisition. And that was at the request of Out West, who is developing that parcel on behalf of Fraser Downtown LLC. And so all of the 10 feet of take is going up on their properties to the east. So along the Riverside property, because they were deeper and had more room to give. And then that orangish yellow color would be just the temporary construction easements for us to tie all of the grades back down. Now, if you've driven through there, the J&L property has a really, really large berm, and the elevation change between the building finished floor and what will be Clayton Court is significant. So we would need to tie all of that back in. This would be the new proposed utilities. So if you can see here, there's a new Excel gas main that is moving to the north under the sidewalk, and then 5 feet separation between that and Mountain Parks Electric. They will be running their conduit in there. This doesn't show Comcast, but Comcast will be running their 3 conduits right next to Mountain Parks to get that all in there. We did meet with Comcast on site and found out that all 911 communications run through that Comcast line that's through the old trailer park. So a very significant dedicated line, and almost all of the internet to Old Town runs through there. So working with them, Lumen as well. Unfortunately, the new hydrants that we just installed on Clayton Court are now in the way. So they will have to be moved. So they're currently on the east side. So you can see little blue boxes That's where the hydrants will be going. So the hydrant will be relocated over near the well house on mid-block. And then over on Clayton Avenue, we will extend the water line into Clayton Avenue, come around and put the hydrant on the corner. That was the only way to get the gas line in to stay out of conflict with the water line and the sewer lines that are in there. So
Wow.
this doesn't, you can kind of see it on here, but if we just take this from the far east, we'll have electric service in the ground. We will have gas service in the ground. We will have communications in the ground. We then have a water line in the ground, a sewer line, a pump back line, and then service lines. So Mountain Parks is proposing a three-phase power to come in from the telephone pole that's right in front of the J&L building at the intersection of Doc Suzie and Fraser, run it down, and then up on the dead end of Clayton Avenue currently is where the EV chargers will go on parallel parking right there. So we need three-phase there. So working through that, there is the one complication other than moving the fire hydrants is the service lines for the two, for the one home on Highway 40 and Xerox, and then the small commercial building just to the north of that. Their service lines go through the 150 Clayton, which currently puts those underneath the foundations for the Centrum development that we're waiting on it to come back to Planning Commission. So working through that on how we're going to relocate all of those, or how the developer is going to relocate them. Their title search, unfortunately, did not bring up those two private easements that are recorded. So we did provide those to them. They now have them. They know where the lines are so they can work with them. This is, again, the final plan for the streetscape. You have the sidewalks, an inverted road, reverse crown road to get the drainage to work with the roll face curb. So ideally, development would be all ready to go. We wouldn't be tearing things up. But this allows them to put the driveways wherever they want, and they don't have to create curb cuts. They can drive through. So Centrum has a centralized drive area for both buildings. They're hoping to do some other things with some of their developments to minimize access points. So again, the final plans and specs are in development. They will be ready by the end of this month to go to bid. Just finalizing the adjustments, considering the utilities and future development. And so the plan is to put it to bid for spring construction in end of August, early September of this year to make sure we can get on anybody's schedule to come up here and get this built. This is kind of shows the drainage, what the drainage is going to do. The red areas were no parking, but those will go away because the fire hydrants will no longer be there. So if somebody were to pull in there, they squished a bunch of cars in there, maybe you'd fit another one. And then the red on Fraser Avenue, it says Clayton on this drawing, unfortunately, but Fraser Avenue extension, that is for the handicap. There's a van accessible site there, and then also you have the ADA ramp coming down, so it's no parking in that location.
Where's that? Sorry.
That would be so right where it says Clayton Court. So where Clayton Court and Clayton Court would meet on this drawing, there's some red. So that would just be no parking because of the ADA ramp, so that you can see people coming right there. So here's the drainage. So there's currently a V-pan out there. It's kind of hard to see. It's kind of broken up and covered in a lot of dirt. But we're going to keep that same location. So drainage that comes off of Highway 40 flows through the Centrum 150 Clayton Court would just continue to flow as it has to the Fraser River. And then everything else is going to be transitioned down the center V-pan and come around to another cross pan where the existing ditches on right there behind the one property on Doc Suzie. There's an existing ditch, so we're just going to continue draining that way. So try to keep everything as simple as we can. Drainage, and then there's kind of a high spot right where the pedestrian bump out is mid-block. So the water is going to go either direction from there. So Clayton Avenue from the pedestrian crossing will drain to the cross pan, and then everything else will drain down to the Fraser Clayton intersection and then traverse down the ditch that would be on the side of the Art Center. And of course, as the Art Center develops, they have the opportunity to pipe all of that, to enclose all of that, to get rid of a ditch if they so desire. The site furnishings, there's been a lot of collaboration between the development team, Sarah, our gardeners, Joe, McDonald on what we wanted to see. So a lot of it is what we've already been using. Some planters that they'd like to see, the same kind of banners, the bear-proof trash cans. We're going to go with a tinted concrete due to the removal of the heated sidewalks. So try to absorb as much energy into those as we can with the limited amount of sunlight it'll get with the north-south orientation. And then street lights. So all the basically every black call out you can see little circles. That's going to be a street light. So continuing the same sort of spacing we have along Highway 40 with the same sort of candy cane lights on ball pedestals so that the snowplows can come through and not tear everything down. So keeping everything the same look that we have going down Highway 40 would continue along Clayton Court. With the pedestrian bump out, you can see it better in this picture where they have the crossing striped. So there will be planters and benches and bike racks to allow people to use different modes of transportation as they come through there. Currently, we have coordination with all of the utilities to provide CAD drawings for them. So working with them to have the CAD drawings, we are currently, Merrick is currently creating the gas easement that Excel is requiring. I'm not overly fond of providing a dedicated easement within a right-of-way, but after collaboration with CDOT on something that they've been fighting for 3 years, they've given in and just provided the easement, so it's not worth fighting and going to court over an easement. We'll give them the easement that they're requesting so we can get that put in there. So things are moving forward. One thing I would be doing is giving Excel an exception to the October 15th moratorium on construction. If we do not give them a variance, they will not put the gas line until next year, which will not help the Strom site to open its commercial business or their 4 townhouses. So if they can't get that line in, as long as they get it in quickly, we can work with them. Mountain Parks, we have to move the one power pole there at the intersection with Doc Suzie. So move that over a little bit. But it's going to set everybody up for being able to use this. There's a lot of utilities that took us probably about 3 or 4 months of just back and forth with different utilities on who can go where, who's going to do what, arguing over who's going to go in first, who's going to go in last. And then, but that's kind of where we are on the streetscape. Just wanted to give an update. We hadn't talked about it in a while, but the plan is to go to bid in September for construction to start, hopefully October 15th to get sidewalks in and get it paved. I know it's going to get torn up as development because everybody's not ready to develop, but if we keep waiting, it won't happen. So we budgeted for it, so we want to get it built. Any questions?
So I know we're using the candy cane lights. Can we change those out so they're dark sky compliant through town?
Yeah, we can.
Those are already LEDs, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so.
That's LEDs.
So they
but they're
glow.
Dark sky compliant.
Yeah, well,
Are
they do
street
need to be
powered?
dark sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
I think they have bulbs like that too that will just point down and out so that they don't trespass. The light doesn't trespass and go up. But when the time does come, I like the look, but
Blowing up,
We can take a look at it.
but yeah, we need to.
that's a priority.
Mike,
Yeah, we can
it's not on.
make sure the bulbs are dark sky compliant.
Okay, because it
3,000
might be
lumens.
more than the bulbs. It might have to be the fixture, kind of focus it down.
Yeah.
And the
We were
other,
just going for the same look. That's what.
well,
what
but
we
we
were
might have
directed
to
do.
change them all out at some point because that was
Yeah.
really the intention. So we don't want to be doing it twice.
Yeah,
We don't
I
have-
agree.
Yeah, they need to be downlit, right?
I agree.
The other question, I know you've been working with on the internet. Is there any option to work with Mountain Parks Electric as an alternative to our current?
So, I mean, Mountain Parks can provide it. They, after you mentioned that last time I looked it up, they're years away from having any options up here.
Like if you had conduit in there, I mean, so that,
I mean, we would put in what they want. I don't know what they're gonna want. We are gonna run an extra one for Comcast. Comcast has requested 3 conduits. one for coax, one for fiber, and then an extra as a backup. So I plan on putting in 2 for Lumen, 1 for their fiber and a backup. So we are running out of room to put conduits in, so I'm not sure how Mountain Parks would be supplying that.
I'm amazed that Comcast is the best we can do.
Exactly.
It's astounding,
It's sad.
you know, they are the worst.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I have a couple of questions. They're actually more in the surrounding area, the context that you mentioned. On the 2 private lots that have the service lines across, it seems that in a couple of years, those will take care of themselves when the highway expands.
So, well, in speaking with the developers out there, though, neither one of those properties has any interest to sell at this time. So
Hmm.
their
CDOT's coming.
but their service lines are on Clayton. Personally, I would love to see those be redeveloped and I can abandon the dead end water line.
I think it's just a matter of time, I guess. is
But
my
as of right
point, but,
now, all 3 of those parcels are not interested in selling, is my understanding. Or
Okay.
the number is not palpable to the developers.
And okay, my second line of question is about the water line. So it was upgraded to an 8-inch. It's still a dead end.
Yes.
Are we anticipating?
Well, the 8-inch isn't. No, I anticipate on this part. It's not working. I anticipate that. So the new line we put in is looped coming back down 40 to the north. The dead end goes to the south.
Yeah, but there's a dead end
That dead end's still
currently.
there. So
And are we anticipating when we have the right of way that we will tie that in and loop it?
I anticipate when those get redeveloped that we would abandon that line and services would come off of Clayton. Or off of the line that runs between Denver Health.
Well, I guess what I'm concerned is we now have 55-foot buildings all over that area, and we have an 8-inch dead end line servicing them, and those are going to have 4 to 6-inch service lines on them. Is that going to be adequate for what we've recently approved?
Oh, so you're saying the end down at Clayton Avenue, that would be looped if and when we were to tie Clayton Avenue to 804.
To repeat, yeah. Okay, that I was hoping to hear that we have future plans to loop
Yes,
that.
I would loop that as, if I'm going to put sewer in under Elk Creek, I'm going to run a water line under Elk Creek at the same time and only get 1 permit.
Got it.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks
Yeah,
for the update.
no action on this, so thanks, Paul. All right, resolution 2025-0805, approval of additional Camber Business Enhancement Grant Award.
Good evening, Mayor, Fraser Board of Trustees, Sarah Catanzarite, Assistant Town Manager. I believe we also have the applicant, Nick from Camber Brewing Company, online with us. But in your packet, you do have a staff briefing along with a number of documents for consideration of approval of additional Fraser Business Enhancement Grant award amount requested by Camber Brewing Company. And then I also thought I'd just give you kind of an update on the Business Enhancement Grant program and where that stands right now. We are looking at doing a workshop, I believe, before the September 17th board meeting to review the program and discuss possible changes for next year, and kind of address some of the different questions and concerns that have come up through the process this year. So that is coming. But for right now, Camber Brewing Company has applied for a business enhancement grant back in March. They were approved by the Board of Trustees for $5,500 with a match requirement to complete the following scope of work. It was a concrete ADA ramp, exterior paint, 2 windows that were going to be replaced, an awning roof replacement, and then sidewall flower bed improvements with a retaining wall. So Camber has been working on this project. They did find some increases in cost as they kind of dug into the project, got more formal estimates, and also just kind of realizing what was actually involved. They couldn't just paint; they had to do some repairs to the fascia and to the siding. But I can let Nick speak more to that. So they have requested an additional 5,500. Right, I think that number's wrong.
5750.
Thank you. 5,750. And they would still be providing the required match, but to cover the actual expense of the full project. As part of this, they have asked for the town to cover half of the in-kind labor that's being provided by the owner of the business. They've calculated that as 80 hours at $40 an hour to complete the work. He has said that this provides a savings to the project versus paying a contractor or somebody else to do the work. So that is something for the board to consider if we want to cover the in-kind labor. In the past, we haven't always covered that. I have seen in various grant programs, sometimes it's covered, sometimes it's not. I think there is a justification for covering it versus if he's paying somebody else, but that's up for the board's discretion as well. There is money still available if you were to grant this request. Presently, we've have awards out and kind of pending that have been approved for $108,771. We had originally budgeted $125,000 plus $25,000 that rolled over from last year's program. So if the board were to approve this request in full, this would bring the total amount of current awards for 2025 to $114,521. A couple other updates. We did administratively approve a Fraser Hair Company sign for $420. Given the small amount, we thought it made sense just to let them proceed with that and get the work done. They had somebody ready to do it versus bringing it in front of the board. The Holiday Inn Express did withdraw their application. They had a management change and weren't going to be able to complete the project this year. And then Fraser Valley Shopping Center, it was requested by the board that they make sure all of the dumpsters were enclosed and that the enclosures were going behind the buildings versus out in the parking lot. So they have complied with that. Their new budget for that, half of that budget would be an award of $24,936. And we're just waiting on that site plan to be submitted and approved so they can proceed with that work. So I'm happy to let Camber speak if you would like, or answer any questions, or talk about any of the information provided.
Let's hear from Nick.
How's it going, everybody? It's Nick Crab with Camber Brewing. Hope everybody's having a good night. I don't really have much to add besides what Sarah already kind of summarized. But if anybody had any specific questions about what needed to happen or what specifically increased, I do have that in the documents, but can definitely answer any questions on that for sure.
Sure, this was intended for interior projects like a water heater.
The water heater was not approved. That was just part of his original grant scope, but the board opted not to approve that.
I guess I'm just having issues with how the program is constructed in this example as well. I mean, we have deadlines, we have asks. I read 40 grants a year outside of these and grade them. Nobody gets to come back and say, we need twice the money now. No, we obviously don't know what in kind means if we're charging, if we're asking for money for it, it's not in kind. It's a labor fee. It's an hourly charge. It's not in kind. In kind is a third party person doing something, volunteering, not a business owner doing it for themselves on their business. I just, again, this ask actually makes me, I was questioning the program as a whole, and now I'm just not even in favor of this program, because it is, to me, we should just be saying, if you have a business license and you bring in a qualified receipt, we'll give you money for it until it runs out.
that's what, I mean, this just, I've never seen anything like what we're doing here.
So just a couple clarifications. We did have a deadline for priority consideration, and after that, we accepted rolling applications. So we have had applications continue to come in. In terms of maximizing the program, I think we were trying to balance wanting to have a competitive process and wanting to have that early enough that people would be able to line up work for the summer season, knowing how short that is. But then also recognizing that, maybe there would be businesses that would come along and be ready to do work later in the year that had missed that deadline. So
But
if
prices
funding
change. You
remained.
don't get to come in and go, sorry. I mean, I don't know. I have an issue that there's even a reapplication.
Yeah. And with the labor, I think the board can decide what they would like to do with that. Like I said, I've seen it both ways with grants. We just submitted a final report for a Colorado State Trails grant. And we submitted documentation of town labor that we got reimbursed for, and they consider that an in-kind donation. So I've seen other grants that don't allow that. So it really just is dependent on the program.
I see it as somebody doing work on their own business.
And that's fair. Yeah. And that's why we're bringing it to the board as to whether or not you'd like to approve those labor charges.
$3,200 in in-kind labor?
In labor.
Yeah.
It's not.
There's no way to track it either.
What's up?
There's no way to track it.
Right. It could come in as twice that and we could get another grant request.
So when do we pay out these grants? After the project's finished?
They have to finish the project, then they submit kind of a final report, some photos, and then they need to submit invoices and proof of payment. So with the labor, there is that question of how do you track it and what would the appropriate documentation be? Again, when the town has submitted that for grants, we are actually going through pay stubs and tracking hours and
So they have to come out of pocket initially for the work, and
Correct.
then they get reimbursed after we verify that the work has been done
Yep.
properly.
Yeah, we haven't given anybody money up front.
And to clarify
this is
the
kind of-
in-kind labor,
Okay.
that has been awarded in the past, and I wasn't exactly sure how that worked. So more or less, I was just going on past experiences and seeing if that would be a possibility because it would help us complete more of these projects. But just because then I can basically make that happen on my own time, which is like taking me away from my business. But more or less, it was a historical, I want to say precedent because that's not correct, but just like what I experienced in the past, I figured I would just see if that was a possibility. But I understand if it's not trackable or whatnot. I totally get it. So.
I mean, I guess to Adam's comment, it's sort of a slippery slope, people coming back and asking for more money. And like I ran into Barry, and his project is probably not going to go forward because the estimate now is like $20,000 or $30,000 more. And is he going to come back and ask for more money to? I mean, so we
He
You
maxed
might
out.
as well just say, bring us your receipts and we'll reimburse you.
Well, but on the Barry piece, like he maxed out. He hit the 25K mark. So
Well, he
there's
got
no
it
more
last
money.
year and this year, but then he's going to come back and ask for more to get the project. So
He
I
didn't,
don't
he
know.
didn't get
It's-
last year and this year. He deferred the 7,500 to make it the 25K.
But didn't we?
We didn't give him 32K. We gave him 25.
But did the 7,500? Isn't he eligible to get that if he completes the project?
No.
He's
5,000 is
eligible
the
for
max.
25,000.
That's our max.
Okay, so if you don't use it one year, it goes away. It doesn't roll over.
Correct. They have the option to request a formal extension. Understanding that sometimes things happen and get delayed, but the expectation is that they are applying for money for a project that's completed this year.
Okay. I mean, the flip side of this coin is, Camber asks for way too much money, and then money's tied up in the project until it's finished. He submits the invoices, and then we say, oh, look, we have extra money now. Like, I don't know. What do you prefer? That we didn't give out the money from the grant because people asked for too much, or that they asked for too little and came back for a little bit more?
I think you gotta have some structure. I think this is a
Fair.
free-for-all. I think, uh,
The idea
I-
is
I-
to
I-
improve the look of Fraser. Talking about fixing concrete and adding flower beds and planting, it's to
Yeah.
make the building look a lot nicer.
Yeah, but when it's the town's responsibility and, it's subsidizing businesses that it is, I mean, they are paying half, right? But ultimately, that's their business and
We agreed to do this program.
Yeah.
true.
like I
But
said, I'm no longer. in
Yeah.
favor.
And again, that's what we'll be revisiting in September, but we did do a workshop last fall where we established the criteria and guidelines and kind of goals for this program. And I would say this project is within those goals. Again, I agree with deadlines, but we did set it up that it wasn't a final deadline. Again, it was priority consideration. If the money ran out, we wouldn't be presenting this to the board, but as we do have funding and he does have additional expenses beyond what he estimated, it's to the board's discretion if you want to award additional funding towards the project.
Well,
Like-
costs have definitely gone up since they made the original application.
Yeah.
No question about that.
And if he was at the cap, then it would be no conversation.
Yeah.
But he didn't apply for $25,000. So it's just a question of does the town want to see these, this money go out and make improvements to the town businesses, or do we not?
I think it meets the criteria.
Mhm.
I'd like to see it go out.
I'd like to see it go out, but it's the labor.
yeah, I mean, I guess my only concern is the in-kind work. That's
I think
impossible to track.
we have 10 open grants right now and they can all come back asking for more. Just because they got a receipt that doesn't agree with their ask.
We have a cap on this at 125,000 this year.
150, and if we don't use it, it rolls forward, so we're obligated to spend it.
See, I don't
know,
agree with that. I don't think just because we set a cap of whatever for these enhancement grants that we have to spend the money, right?
Or it rolls forward to the next year as well.
Right.
We want to improve the building.
I mean, I'm all for that. And where's that mural's gonna go on the side of the building, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that can't be done until he's done these improvements.
The windows are the key there, and I believe that they are being delivered. I was quoted about 2 weeks from now, so hopefully we can get those installed prior to the mural going up. But the rest of the fashion improvements that needed to happen on that side, they have been completed already. The old windows that was boarded up and now stuccoed over, to just kind of give it more a wall look and not a ramshackled look, if you will. But that's the only thing that really needs to happen prior to the mural. But
So this is reimbursements for improvements that have already been made?
They are
I was-
improvements that
Did you, I mean, I thought he just said that he's already done
Is-
improvements on that wall.
I was approved for the original
That was
$5,500.
within the original, not within the, okay.
Yes.
Okay, you got it.
So this is going to be done this year? Is that the plan?
yes, is that
Barring any
correct,
major
Nick?
setbacks, yes, absolutely.
And just for added clarification as well, we ended up moving the mural out of the grant ask. I think even before we presented it to the board, as the PAC decided to take that on as the commission for the mural festival this year. So he didn't get money towards the mural. That was looked at separately.
So as long as the project is started this year, then they're eligible for reimbursement. It doesn't have to be finished. for them
It's supposed to be finished, but we, again, understanding that things happen, that's why we included a stipulation that if they're not going to be able to finish it, they can formally request an extension that can be considered.
Okay. Well, board, you can choose to make a motion or not, or what do you want to do?
So if people are comfortable with the amount on the in-kind on the labor, should we make it at $30 an hour? Or 20,
No,
or something, just leave it, not at all.
you can do whatever you want. I don't think you have my vote either way, so.
Yeah.
Make a motion what you want.
At all? No labor costs?
My house is a business. I rent it out. I have to paint it myself. Nobody's paying me to paint my house. I mean, that's
Yeah.
economic development in this community.
But you're not on Highway 40.
I'm on Eisenhower.
You're not on Highway 40. A lot less people
Across
drive
from the
by.
train station,
This
it's
grant
more
is not
visible.
specific to Highway 40 properties.
Yeah,
It's a business enhancement grant across the town.
yeah.
Right.
So it seems like we want to approve the new amounts minus that 1,600 for and labor. So
3,200.
Well, the 1,600, the half, right?
Oh, that's our,
Yeah. So if you were to remove the 1,600, which would be the half that he's asking for of the 3,200 for labor, the new amount would be 4,150.
okay.
My
I'm
math.
fine with that. That's the only thing that gives me heartburn is approving in-kind labor.
Okay.
Make a motion.
Hey, I'd like to make a motion to approve, resolution 2025-0805 with the change where we will not be reimbursing for his, labor costs, his in-kind labor. So the total grant would be for $4,150.
That's a total increase, right, Sarah?
That's yes, in addition to the original 5,500.
Right, in
that was
addition to
awarded.
the original 5,000. Again, this is because of the increasing costs.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Motion carries. One nay.
One nay.
Nick, I do think Camber is looking beautiful.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have done.
And I do go in, I do get beer from you, so.
I understand the hold up the in-kind labor for sure, and definitely don't want to set that precedent because it might just be a slippery slope that you guys were talking about, and I totally get it. But it was approved in the past. That's the only reason I did it. So I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Nick.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Moving on to updates. First one, discussion of town hall bathroom access. Paul.
So there's been a lot of talk about providing access.
Is your mic on?
Yeah.
There. Thank you.
Been a lot of talk about trying to add bathroom access from the exterior. So the town hall could be closed and then access for events. We were moving forward. We had the survey completed, but unfortunately the architect who designed the addition to the front notified me yesterday at 4 p.m. that they don't have the time or the ability to get that done before the current contractor is off site. So I've reached out to Merrick to see if they can do it. They don't have the capacity to do something that fast. So I have also reached out to D2C Architects, who is doing the public works facility. Have not heard back from them yet to see if they have it. My concern is if we do it now, it's a change order to the work we're doing. If Golden pulls off, I then have to go to bid because it's more than $5,000, obviously. So to stay within the law, we would have to go out to bid. So I'm trying to see if we can still get it done this year. If not, it would possibly have to push to next year. The rough estimate from MW is 100,000 to get it done, but they don't have any plans to spec that with. The biggest cost is building that ramp from that level up to the bathroom level. So there's an extensive ADA ramp that would have to be designed and built. And then there's a little bit of plumbing that has to be reworked in the ladies' bathroom because the water comes in from this side of the building. So we'd have to kind of bring it up and over where the door would come. So that's kind of where we are on that. So I know that there was a push to get this done. We've tried. There's been a lot of delays, but they don't want to build anything without an engineer's stamp, understandably. So I'm trying to get that through whoever I can. So I'm reaching out to all the architects we've worked with in the past, see if somebody can get it done the next month.
So I can let it go.
Yeah. I mean,
I
it's
can
going
let
to
it
be
go,
a great amenity,
you know, right.
but it is what it is.
Porta potties do a good job for now. We don't know what's gonna happen with the tennis court, if there's gonna be an expansion with the daycare, maybe someday. I don't know, just if things were falling into place, I'd say let's go for it. But if all these things are happening, and I don't think this is the job that we wanna rush. And hard to say if the contractor here would even have the time, really.
Well, the price that I've been quoted is contingent on Bruce still being here as the job site foreman. So they've committed to doing it. They knew it was a possibility when we awarded the contract. It just took a while to get a quote, and then they need some more information. And then unfortunately, the architect, I had them come up here. We did a site walk. They measured everything, and then they told me yesterday they don't have the manpower or the time to do it with their current workload.
Yeah, I believe it.
So I guess to just be clear, the question that Paul is asking is if we're able to get an estimate for design work this year for an engineer to come in and do the construction documents and design
Yeah,
for
basically,
the bathrooms, and we're able to get a proposal, is that something you would like to see brought before the board so you can approve or deny it? Or do you want us to just kind of wait until a different time in the future?
I'd say if you can make it happen, make it happen.
And it would still come as a proposal estimate to the board for consideration. It would not be just something.
Well, it's
we
kind of
just
late in the
do.
year, right? There's not too many more events scheduled.
Well, but
Right.
it's about having it ready for next spring.
True.
You know?
I mean, how much it costs to build restrooms out, away from the building versus creating access, I guess, from the
Hopefully
back.
a lot less than the last set of bathrooms.
So this is, using the existing bathrooms. The idea was to be able to, when we have the music in the park, being able to lock the doors that come into this area and just providing access on the back of this building with an ADA ramp during the music, different events going on at the park. That's really just the whole intention behind it.
Right. No,
If you're
understand.
looking at constructing a new bathroom, it's going to be a dramatic difference in cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, this project consists of a ramp, a sidewalk from one end of the building to the other, and a door. The plumbing is all already here.
Yeah, using the existing door that's in the bathroom and the men's bathroom, and then they'd be cutting a doorway coming into the women's bathroom on the outside.
Not to open up a whole can of worms, but we've kind of been talking about this. This wouldn't happen in the next year, but picnic in the park has become very popular, and yeah, kind of bursting at the seams. And Paul and Michael, I can't remember who had the idea originally, but thought maybe we move the pavilion over into the kind of corner where it's grassy but not playground, and then the bands could play up top, and then that creates more of a lawn, more space for more people to come. Curious of
Or move the venue, move it to somewhere else. I mean, I thought we were talking about doing an amphitheater over, the Lion's Pond, skate, or the bike
I
park
think
and
a
all.
lot of families like this because it's really contained. The
Right.
kids can run around. You don't have to worry about them.
Plenty of
Um,
parking.
What's that, Katie?
Safeway once again. You know, and
Yeah,
this is a small
right.
town event, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's food for thought.
yeah.
I like the pavilion idea. Can we get a proposal for that in the bathrooms and go over it?
For moving the pavilion,
Yeah.
I think we would want to have a plan in place for how we create a stage. To Brian's point, just looking at relocating, pushing the band back, how we want to do that. That's going to be some significant engineering
that's a
work,
major redo.
architectural work.
Yeah, it's a whole other project.
Your elevator.
Yeah, so
Right.
if
Well, it's
if
already
the-
elevated.
Right now, it's like in the middle of the playground.
Right.
Park needs to be on one side, whatever makes sense, right?
So what we had talked about is putting it directly behind here, but kind of angled towards the corner so that you can see down. So somebody that's sitting over where the tree is right up against like Michael's office can still see the band. And it's pointed back kind of to the corner towards the intersection. And you open up seating for another 50 to 75 people. See the band. I know some of the complaints that Sarah hears is, oh, you can't hear the band. Well, anybody back here can't. And if you're off in the corners, this would kind of direct all of everything out towards everybody. And then put the pavilion over in a nice space, kind of contained with the fence and the trees. And then you have the playground and the kids are all kind of playing there, and then everybody else can enjoy the band. It's kind of
You also
thought
get a couple
process.
sound bars.
Yeah, the pavilion is not really built as a band stage.
No.
No,
It
it's
could
a
be
picnic
modified
pavilion.
that it would be more, accommodating for a band and music.
But like
So the-
it's the location, kind of in the middle of everything.
Back. And not up on the, I mean,
Yeah,
that would.
I think that was the
double
original
space,
idea.
you know?
But then the idea of having a shelter next to the playground seemed like it was favorable too. So I mean, it's maybe that's something we could workshop.
Yeah,
if-
that is
if
good
The board
workshop.
feels like there's a conflict between, access to these bathrooms and maybe some future plans here for the park. Maybe we just need to look at that a little bit deeper. Maybe look at those two things in tandem.
I think one of the advantages of doing both bathrooms, doing the bathrooms and moving the stage up above is now you've got a ramp for any equipment to get up to that stage.
Yeah.
Running electricity to it shouldn't be too hard. And so, I don't know. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's naturally elevated, so you're not building a stage. Put in a concrete slab and some kind of shelter for the musicians and call it good.
Fireplace is cool though.
Fireplace is cool, and it would probably not survive the move.
But the pavilion,
Yeah.
Yeah, just move the pavilion and
that'd be easy. Just unfold it.
Just unbolt. Well, everything but the.
Take
Yeah.
that for a future meeting?
Yeah,
This one-
okay, right. yeah,
All right.
David.
Downtown development update.
I feel like for updates, we're supposed to stay seated now. So I just wanted to give you a quick update on what the DDA has been working on throughout the year. We were asked for updates, and it's been a while since we looked at this with you. A lot of the year has been kind of visioning and discussions. There's a bit of a holding pattern with, the town comprehensive plan is going on. We've got a wayfinding study that's happening between Fraser Winter Park and Winter Park Resort. So signage has been a big topic of conversation, but holding off for that. So we've had a couple of different efforts. The beginning of the year, so as you know, last year we developed the plan of development, the bylaws, a work plan. The beginning of the year, we developed a financial policy document to kind of guide future investments and what things the DDA would invest money in. We did a coffee hour. The DDA board was involved in helping to really kind of promote and get out the word about the Town of Fraser Business Enhancement Grants. And then to help review those. So some of the DDA board members served on the grant review committee. We tried our hand at a Ride Ski Save promotion to try to promote ridership on the ski train and encourage people to not just ride it to the resort, but to stop and visit businesses in Fraser. So I think that's something we'd like to try again next year, but get started on it a little more in advance. It kind of was something that came about in January, kind of mid-ski season. But they've weighed in a lot on the town comprehensive plan, particularly in regards to downtown development, had conversations with the chamber, the rec district on different ways to collaborate. We've tossed around a lot of ideas for kind of district enhancements and activation. But again, some of them have gotten sidelines for different reasons or others. Sidewalks and snow removals have been a topic of conversation. We did receive an award back in April, which I believe you all knew, for the development plan from Downtown Colorado Inc. But I wanted to show you these. One of the things the DDA has been talking about are ways to enhance the area around the railroad station. And as kind of passenger rail is increasing, trying to really kind of capture people coming through on the train, whether it's people that are actually getting off in Fraser or maybe they're just passing through, but they have something that kind of tells them they're in a cool place that they might want to check out next time. Because right now you've got the little station sign, but there's not really much else announcing that you've arrived in downtown Fraser, or perhaps you should get off the train versus continuing on to the resort or Denver or on in the other direction. So this kinetic sculpture on the left is an idea that they've been tossing about. We were trying to stay away from wayfinding while the wayfinding study was going on. But I think ultimately have decided that we do need to wait and see what comes from that wayfinding to make sure that anything like this would would flow with the wayfinding. So this was one idea. If we were to move forward with this, this was a local artist that designed this as kind of a starting point, but we talked about putting a call out to local artists, and we would come to the board for approval of that. But if you do have any feedback, feel free to share. We talked about possible enhancements to the bike park. I think ultimately the DDA board had decided that they'd rather focus with limited funds right now, kind of on that train station area, so moved away from the bike park. We do still have most of our money in place. I realize this is really hard to read, but basically we've spent some money on professional services. I did attend the Downtown Colorado Inc. conference, so there was some lodging there. We've received thus far, as of last month, it was $25,930 in increment, and the county treasury office does seem to be taking a 5% fee. So most of that funding is still there. At this point, we were hoping to have some enhancements in place this year, but some of that may roll over to next year, just to allow those different processes with the comprehensive plan, the wayfinding, making sure we have buy-in for the Board of Trustees before we move forward with things like that. We'll see if some of those can happen thus far in the fall or if it's kind of bumped to next year. We do have open board seats. We started with an 11-member board. As you may recall, we got a lot of interest when we put out initial applications, so we did go with a larger board. We lost 2 board members through the course of the year. One didn't work out schedule-wise to attend the meetings, and one moved out of the district. So it was Lori Hannon who was our chair. She had been living in the Koselig building and is now just outside of the town of Fraser boundaries. So Parks Thompson became our chair, and he's been serving as chair. We will have new appointments for board officers in October per Colorado statute. So we have those 2 seats, and then we have the 2 board terms that expire. Because it was the initial formation, all the board terms were staggered, and 2 of those seats were just for a year. So we have put out applications this week. Please encourage anybody you know that might be interested or that you think might be a good fit. They do have to be within the DDA boundary, either as a resident, a property owner, or a business. But we'll accept those applications with the plan of reviewing them and getting them in the board packet for the September 3rd meeting to appoint board members. It is up to the Board of Trustees if you would like to bring it back to an 11-member board. We could keep it at 9 members. We wrote into the bylaws some flexibility there, kind of recognizing that 11-member board is the maximum. It is a large board. We may not need that many members, but also wanting to kind of capture that interest and have diverse representation as this was getting started. So happy to answer any questions, but that's where we're at.
Thanks, Sarah. Any other updates from the board? I don't think I've done anything special in the last 2 weeks. You go ahead.
Okay, we are starting to prepare for budget season, so that is underway. Additionally, the audit for 2024 has been completed, so we're anticipating Paul Bacchus, who is with the auditing firm, providing his normal kind of overview of the audit sometime here in September. We are shooting for September 3rd, but it may be the second meeting if he's not available that date. We are looking at some joint meeting dates And I will send this out via email. But we are looking at wanting to discuss if availability for September 25th for a joint meeting day with the town of Winter Park. Usually Granby and Commissioner Ragnar would attend that joint meeting. So looking at availability and looking to largely discuss childcare initiatives and funding with that group. In addition to the wayfinding work that we've been working on for the wayfinding study and signage, and looking at how we could phase that in with the town of Winter Park and the resort to have better wayfinding signage from the Fraser River Trail and Highway 40 in different areas of the towns and the resort area. So I will send out an email and just looking to or doodle poll looking to see what dates work best for everybody between September 25th or October 9th. Could be an additional date. Those we don't have board meetings those weeks, so I think it makes it a little more feasible and allows us to kind of focus on the topics that we'll be discussing. At the next meeting, hopefully, we are looking at St. Louis Landing and presenting some options for a short-term loan to maintain construction as is on the construction schedule. We'll be presenting that for board consideration. The senior financing mechanism we were looking to use, which are the tax exempt revenue bonds for St. Louis Landing Phase 1. We were anticipating those to be sold and closing this summer. However, with the award of the Prop 123 funds that allows us to bring in Building D, we will not have that agreement from the Department of Local Affairs until late November. So now we're looking at closing on those bonds in December. The underwriters need to have that agreement in place so that they can underwrite those bonds properly. So with that, we'll be presented to the board for consideration if different options for how you like to maintain the construction schedule, if you want to maintain the construction schedule, and some different loan options. In addition to that, and hand in hand with this loan option, we'll be presenting the notice to proceed approval from the board. That is the last layer of approval per our development agreement for Phase 1 of St. Louis Landing. And we'll be presenting that for consideration to the board. Once that is approved, that allows all of Phase 1 to move forward with completion of construction for all three buildings, assuming that we get Prop 123 funds. Sarah, did you mention the middle income?
No, not yet.
Okay, would you like to?
I would love to.
Go ahead.
So St. Louis Landing was one of 3 projects that was awarded middle income housing tax credits from the state of Colorado.
Sweet.
Yeah, so this is a new program for the state, so it's very exciting. The award is a Colorado state tax credit of $1,542,722 per year for 5 years.
Right.
So that adds up to $7,713. Sorry, $7,713,860 towards the project. So yeah, we can let the MAD provide more information on that as part of their update to the board at the next board meeting. But that goes a long way in closing remaining gap in that capital stack.
That's
So
awesome.
what's the difference?
Congratulations.
That's not a grant, it's a tax credit? How does that?
Their tax credit. So basically the tax credit, you have to find a tax credit buyer, which I understand we have identified, and they buy that tax credit. The estimate is that they would buy it for about 70 cents on the dollar. So they get to save that 30 cents on the dollar.
All right.
And we get
yeah,
that
no.
money towards the
So
project.
assuming
So
you
it's
sell
about 5 million that
Yeah.
we,
So assuming you sell for 70 cents on the dollar, we would get about 5 million from that, as I understand.
This $7,713,860 over 5 years.
We'd get 70% of that?
Sorry, but you get the 70 cents. So yes, you get $5,399,702.
So
Yeah.
with the assumption that this tax credit is awarded and that the grant contract is finalized and signed, Prop 123, that loan program is a repayment at 30 years, is executed, it's signed. we basically, the gap has been fulfilled for phase one, achieving a 90% average for the project, with the meeting the AMIs between 30 and 120% AMI. So it's a pretty big win, with some of these assumptions, and looking at, again, this will be coming to the board either August 20th or the first meeting in September, to provide that notice to proceed if the board wants to continue, or pause construction as an option. But otherwise, we'd be looking at providing that short-term loan option, and we're vetting a few options on that, for what maybe makes the most sense, if that's something the board would like to do.
Interesting.
So those are the things that we'll be bringing here shortly. With that, you'll be having presentations from obviously our developer team. You have presentations from Maddie and Jason from Hilltop Securities about the financial implications and risk. You also have some presentation from Dalton Kelly, who is our bond counsel. And Hilltop also is working with Stiefel, our underwriters, for this as well. So we're kind of looking at checking all the boxes and providing all the different perspectives to the board, in a nice, beautiful presentation is what I'm shooting for, and trying to address any concerns that the board may have, and just ensure that you're making informed decisions. So we're anticipating that for either August 20th or September 3rd.
It's great.
That's all I
So we're in column C now, where we got both of the
Well,
plans.
I think Lewis talked about, well, what if we get the middle column and the right column, which was Prop 123 and the middle income. So, remember those both had gaps, but Lewis, you talked about the scenario like, well, what if we get both of them? And Matt didn't want to, make any promises on the stand, but we're feeling fairly confident that we're going to be able to button those up.
Good.
Well, and they are still pursuing new market tax credits that could be used specifically towards the construction of the child care facility. So that would help cover some of that future kind of subsidy that's being mapped out in terms of lowering their lease down.
Cool.
Great.
Right.
Any other updates?
August 14th, there's going to be a viewing of Connor's PBS documentary at the Foundry. So it's a free movie, but you have to sign up, I think, to get tickets, and there's a QR code floating around. So
This is the one.
yeah, this is, and it's basically very educational about what to do around your homes to prevent your house going up, because the forest, you can't do much about that. So it's good.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good, and there's a lot of good focus on wildfire mitigation, building materials improvements, and it's great.
And just a quick update on the bike park. If you haven't been over there, they've definitely been making progress. You can see the outline for the pump track and the jumps, which is super exciting. It's taking shape. They're looking to be laying asphalt there. What they say in like 2 or 3 weeks?
2 weeks.
And then we're continuing to seek sponsorship for additional funding. We do have Mountain Parks Electric and Guzman Energy lined up as a presenting sponsor. So we're looking at putting them either on a water tower or potentially the wall ride. They think that's going to be about 20 by 6 or 20 by 8 feet and would be visible from the highway as well. But making sure that sponsor has good visibility. So hopefully we have another sponsor that comes on in 3 years when that contract would be up. And then there's some different spots for bike features where Trailblazer sponsors that provide $25,000 or more can get their logo. And we're looking for about a 3-year time period for that as well, or until another sponsor wanted to take their place, I guess. Names. We have been discussing whether it should just be the Fraser Bike Park or have a different name. So we are looking to bring that to the board, I believe September 3rd, if you want to start thinking about that. We might put something out on social media and see if the public would like to suggest some different things for the board to consider, but ultimately look for the board to make that decision.
Well, only if somebody gives us money, right?
Well, no,
When
Yeah,
even
but-
for the name.
A
Oh, no,
company name,
Fraser
right?
Bike Park is,
it'd be like the Fraser Bike Park, sponsored by Mountain Parks Electric, presented by Mountain Parks
The
Electric.
rendezvous events
I'm just saying we would.
Highway Park.
Yeah,
and
the-
Winter Park.
The name of the
Well,
park would always remain, but it would be presented by a different sponsor. every
But
few
they would
years.
sponsor it,
Yeah,
Yes.
which
So
means give us money.
correct.
Okay. What did,
Be
what-
something besides the Fraser Bike Park.
That's all we're saying.
Could be
Like-
something different.
Doesn't have to be a sponsor name. It
The
could be-
cut up-
did you,
From the
Michael,
sponsor.
address that
The name.
issue with, what's the company
And it could just be Fraser Bike Park.
again?
It's doing the bike park?
Yeah,
Avid? Yes.
Yeah.
Talk with them about that.
about them, not
They
understanding
got
the
'em on
historical.
track. That was one of the consultants that's been maybe a little less involved in the project and was the only one that was really available to provide some to attend the ribbon cutting.
Yeah, we had talked because that came up early on when they presented their initial conceptual, and it was switched to more of a ranching, timber, railroad kind of theme. So he misspoke.
Okay, yeah, he was talking about mining and I was like, where?
I know, I cringed when he did because we've had that discussion with them.
He might be buried out there.
I didn't know there was gold in the valley, but maybe there is.
So Union Pacific has a foundation and they give money. So you might call them and they might want some advertising because
I could try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe give us a couple connexes or something for
That's a
like
good
a
idea.
feature. I guess the design's already done.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Ready to move into executive session?
Yes.
Yeah, who's got the motion?
Got it.
Okay. I move to enter into two executive sessions. The first executive session is for the purposes of determining positions relative to the matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategies for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6-402 4E for a conference with the town attorney for the purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS section 24-6-402 4B regarding the property acquisition and utility costs, including town manager Michael Brack, town attorney Kent Whitmere, assistant town manager Sarah Catanzarite, and the public works director Paul Johnson. The second executive session for the purposes of determining positions relative to the matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing a strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6-402 4E regarding joint facilities oversight committee agenda review, including the town manager Michael Brack, public works director Paul Johnson, wastewater plant superintendent Joe Fuqua.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll hop into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, the first executive session does not need to be recorded.
Okay.